Hello, hi everyone. I'm glad to be here on the episode number 3 with Simon. I don't know if I could pronounce your last name Schmiderer, right?
Yeah, that was actually quite good.
Yeah. So, yeah, Simon, why don't you introduce yourself and your company?
Yeah, super nice to be here. My name is Simon. I'm one of the three co-founders of Zone 14. We are a Venice-based sports tech startup. We are working on basically bringing the data you have in professional soccer or football to all the pitches, and we do this using latest AI, deep learning, and computer vision algorithms. And yeah, our focus there is on robustness so that it really doesn't only work in professional football stadiums, who are like a little bit like a laboratory for this kind of algorithms, but basically on your everyday pitch that, yeah, everyone is playing on usually outside the Bundesliga stadiums.
Yeah, interesting that you've mentioned the word soccer first and then football. How do you call it in Austria?
Oh, in Austria, we would say football, but I wasn't 100% sure whether it's more in American people listening in or the English ones, and I hope they are okay with calling it soccer as well.
So, in terms of your company, what are key challenges in soccer and football analytics you see as a founder? How does your product help to solve them?
Yeah, I guess in the last few years, the sports data part of football or soccer has been moving very quickly,
Hmm.
and there is a lot of viable solutions out there. What I see as a general challenge for all of those is like to make it what is the measurement error in general? So how accurate are
Hmm.
these systems? Are they only comparable to one another? Is inside the system, is it comparable, or are they really like measuring what is happening in reality? So this is one topic we really try to challenge by being on the trustworthy side of AI. So we really committed early to this trustworthiness to really keep the coach in the loop and not only present data, but make it the coach's choice to accept it and also to challenge it.
Hmm.
And yeah, in general, the big challenge for all the computer vision parts is that is um, it is quite easy, let's say, to recognize players just on the standing picture and on the pitch. But as football is a very, let's say, it relies very much on chance. There is a lot of things happening. There is like basically 22 objects, players moving
Hmm.
around, and there is not a lot of structure, and therefore it makes it extremely hard for the computer vision algorithms to consistently track the players. So even if you compare it to other computer vision applications in different other industries, it's very rare that you have like this really completely, let's say, random movement patterns. They're not
Okay.
completely random, but it's not that structured, and therefore it's very hard to apply these algorithms in the space of football. Which is also why we got a few research grants on it, because it's really yeah, going deep down on these deep learning things that, and basically pushing the boundaries of what we have for now.
And in terms of you mentioned how the biggest challenge was analytics in football right now is that to understand how accurate is the system, right, and to improve the quality of the output.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's one of the two main topics we are focusing on.
Mm-hmm.
So on the one hand side, we are inclined to provide a tracking score. So basically to not only provide data and say, okay, I don't know, player Kirill ran 9.5 kilometers, but also provide with like how confident are we in this value? Because I think it's not a bad thing to communicate also to the coaches how accurate your system currently is tracking. Because I mean, it would be kind of naive to think that it's like 100% perfect. That's not possible in that sense. And the other thing is definitely the big challenge in computer vision is if all the players at a corner kick, for example, if they run together, they rally up, it's hard for a human being on the TV screen to know which player is where. And
Yeah.
it's the same thing for the algorithm. So all the algorithms lose them. And for now, it's either you use tons of high-speed cameras or you use GPS trackers to re-identify players. But I think the most common state of the art is just human beings then re-identifying manually the players. And this
Mm-hmm.
is where we come in. That's the part that we automized to, I would say, 95%. So basically, we create kind of a fingerprint for each player based on how the player looks like, how he moves or she. Then also we use the patterns you have in a football game, like formations. Is there like a fullback covering for a center back or something like that? And all this is combined. And basically, at the corners kick situations, if we go back there, we lose the players. We don't know who is who. But once they run
Mm-hmm.
out, we track them. But it's basically player 1 to 5. And then step by step, we re identify them. The AD algorithm is currently intelligent enough to even correct itself. So, in 85% of wrongful re identifications, the algorithm can do it by itself. And the other 15% where we are not confident enough that this was a correct re-identification, this is then basically presented to the coach or to an operator afterwards. And there he's basically or she is asked, is this really Simon? Yes, no.
Mm-hmm.
And this is then basically also used then again to train the algorithm to get better and better with every game we have.
Okay, what a deep approach, to be honest. And I was curious. You were saying that you are identifying players not only by the numbers on their backs, but also with the moving patterns and all of the small exact scenes. I'm curious, and I guess all of our audience is also interested. What exact scenes do you track to identify the players?
It's to be honest, it's actually not that easy to say like on the spot, but it's a variance of different things. So what we know is from, for example, if we look at the bounding boxes of each player, the
Mm-hmm.
algorithm mostly focuses on the head. So we have like the hair, what kind of hairstyle do they have, and then it's also the shoes, because that is where the players also in the team are very different. Like if you have them all wearing, I don't know, white jerseys, white shorts, white socks, then there's basically these are the parts that make them completely different. So inside the team re-identification, the algorithm mostly looks at these patterns and then combines it with the movement pattern. So we don't do like skeletons. So we don't produce this
Mm-hmm.
like skeleton inside the bounding box, but we basically cut out the shape of the player, and how this cut out shape is moving also has a very distinctive pattern that we use as part of this fingerprint to re-identify the correct player. And then, of course, we also try to implement things like formation. Do we see this is a 4-4-3? So this might, on the left side, should be one of these three players, for example. So this kind of helps to single it then down or narrow it down to which player is actually the one that we are currently looking at.
Fantastic, Simon. Really, really great and really smart work. And I'm shocked, to be honest, that computers are doing that. And for sure, I'm really, you know, I'm really happy that there are people who are working on these algorithms and helping sports to improve. And you were mentioning that you use the hairstyle, right? The just general outlook. Then you use the movement patterns, and then the formation, like is it 4-3-3 or something like that. So, in terms of the prioritizing, what is your algorithm using as the first thing? Is it hair, color, or yeah? How do you split it?
I mean, it's basically using it as a combination. So it's also not weighted from our side what it prioritizes. So it's
Mm-hmm.
basically then you generate a if you try to generate a big enough data set where you cover all the situations. I mean, it's not always possible, um, but you really the key is to have a very heterogeneous data set of like a lot of different situations, a lot of different players, and then the algorithm basically that's the beauty of deep learning and machine learning there, that the algorithm basically for itself finds what are the distinctive things that I need to basically match the players to the correct name and to the correct player. For us, the algorithm is basically put a little bit in different steps. So first we try to separate the teams and then the referees and the goalkeepers. Then as a next step, you kick out the two goalkeepers because they are like for the team stats not that relevant. And then you go into this re-identification of these 11 players per team. So if you would say like on prioritizing, you could say that first we look at how the player in general, what jersey do they wear, what is the color of the jersey, and so on, and then we separate for that, and then internal in the 11 players on the pitch for each team, we try to use this, yeah, the image features, but then also the running patterns and the formations and the structural information we can get out of a football game. It's a little bit like the human being would also re-identify the players. Like if, I don't know, you see a player with a very significant running style on the left side, you might know, okay, this is probably the left back because, yeah, that's how he runs and he has very short hair and he's not the tallest. And that's basically what we try to replicate with the algorithm as well.
Yeah, really cool. And in terms of, you've been saying that your system is able to, train itself, right? To improve itself.
I mean, it's basically the coach's input or the operator's input that we then used to train the algorithm again. We also have the possibility for all the coaches to kind of investigate. I don't know if you have a central defender that has a very high sprint score, and you're like, okay, he's already, I don't know, a little bit older, maybe not the fastest anymore. I think there might be a measurement error. Then the coach has the power to intervene, click it, and basically this triggers an internal response loop where our data science team then looks at the data set, has a look at the video itself, and we see, okay, is there maybe there has happened a mistake? And then we also try to implement this clip as part of the new data set for the next algorithm development. So that basically the algorithm doesn't train on the situation where it's easy to track, but that we
Mm-hmm.
find the situations that are hard and we get better and better on the hard ones because then you can track on the easy ones as well.
Yeah, 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 for sure, because you need to improve all the time. But in order to get your first MVP when you guys started, how much data sets it took, how much football games it took to have something? Because it sounds complex.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, our first approach, like a lot of other guys who were working on computer vision did it the same way, was to go to professional clubs because, of course, they have videos, tons of videos you can use. Back then, we had a little bit the issue that we were like three young guys from Austria trying to use a technology that most of the people at the federation did not 100% understand, and they were not sure what we were actually talking about. So it was quite hard for us to convince them to give us videos. And we had then a very interesting discussion with a guy who was very deep in computer vision in other topics, and he said that he sees an issue that we then took up with if you have like an overly perfect video for your data set, like you have it basically in a Premier League or La Liga stadium. Those are like fitted with perfect lighting with 500 plus looks on the light. There is a perfect pitch. You have perfect lines. There isn't gonna be a substitution player without like a jersey over his real jersey. These are all kinds of things that happen in the other 99% of football games out there. Yeah, if you have youth games, if
Yeah.
you have like amateur games. So, but these are kind of things that are going to throw off professional algorithms. So if you want to have something that doesn't only work in, I would say, like professional Central European football, but you can also use then to go to emerging markets like Africa or South America or India, you need something that is way more robust. Even maybe there might not be grass on some of the pitches, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So we then turned around and said, okay, if we want to have it very robust, we need to get the videos from the, yeah, let's maybe say it how it is, like the shittiest pitches that we can find. And so we went to our yeah, youth clubs where we were playing when we were young, and we talked to them, and basically they were super interested in the idea of getting data and thing, but none of them were doing video analysis. So they were not producing any videos. But was like 3 years ago with like coaches emerging, like I don't know, Nagelsmann and Tuchel, where they were like a lot of people working more and more with data and videos. So the young coaches are coming up. They were more inclined to also do it like they see it on the TV. And so we, yeah, very quickly had like 20 clubs signing up for easy to use video analysis by Zone 14. So we basically there decided if we want to have robust data, we first have to find a solution to bring easy to use video to the clubs. And yeah, we teamed up with them. We now have over 80 of our camera systems deployed all over Europe.
Okay.
And with this 80 systems. We recorded over 7,000 football games from
Okay.
under 9 to senior games with women's football and so on and so on. And out of these games, we built basically our data set and we use these videos to create the algorithm.
Yes, this sounds really awesome. And in terms of strategic point of view, that's really useful for your company and for your algorithm. And you've built it from the ground from the use games, correct?
Yeah.
And I'm curious, you said, you need to have data from some shittiest pitches. What is the shittiest, field you have, you know?
It's I mean it's not in the way of like a shittiest like you would say as a player to play on, but there is
Uh-huh,
like stadiums and pitches where it's more difficult to record and track. I mean we have
uh-huh.
mounted camera systems on fences. We have mounted camera systems on trees because there was no other way to put it there. And then you have sometimes I don't know a little bit of the tree if the wind goes in the wrong direction. There is the like the leaves of the tree looking into the camera and distracting it and stuff like that. So this is all things that happen to us, and then you basically have to. It's super interesting that like the needles of a needle tree, if they are in the back, they very much look like a player for the algorithm. I have no idea why, but we had to train our algorithm to ignore needle trees
Okay.
because otherwise it would always see players in the back of the pitch where there were needle trees. So these are all kinds of things, and for us, these kind of pitches are like not the best ones. But yeah, we have pitches from seventh Austrian League to yeah basically ex Bundesliga stadiums that are now playing in lower leagues. So we kind of cover most of it, I would say.
Okay, yeah, that's really really awesome. And also, I'm curious in terms of, pitches, but what in terms of the weather? Let's say, have you recorded any games in snow or in rain or yeah?
I mean, yeah, definitely with like perfect sunshine, no clouds, and perfect football weather, it's also better for the cameras. We
Yeah.
have had a few recordings where there was a little bit of snow, where there was a snowstorm coming and it started to snow, where then maybe there was like a 1 hour break and they had to clean the pitch and then they would continue. But of course, the tracking is harder to do. So that is also the idea behind the tracking score we're currently working on. So that as a coach, you basically already see I don't know, for this game where we had like, I don't know, hail or something, and it was very hard to see, the tracking might only be like a 3 out of 5, where with like perfect weather, perfect lighting, it was like a 5 out of 5 game. But then
Mm-hmm.
it's also easier for the coach to say, okay, in this game, we're gonna really know, okay, this is really accurate data, and in the other one, it might not be super accurate, but we can still get a feeling for like how did we play there.
Okay, but do you use this data then, let's say, a game had a snow or a rain, and afterwards, do you use this data to feed it into the algorithm, or are you trying to avoid?
No, definitely. I mean, if you want to be able to track on under every condition, it's even in the way that we overfit, like overly represent them in there. So it's not like if we have 100 games and one has snow that we would take 100 games and one with snow into the data set, but we really try then with like there is different would go too deep technically, but there's different
Hmm.
methods of how to balance your data set. And then we, for example, for women's football, we also have like a very small percentage only of the teams that play with our cameras are women's football. So we try to then use more of their videos to have it into the data set so that the algorithm is not only able to track male athletes, but also female athletes
Hmm.
with the same quality. And the same goes for the different conditions if you have outside. Yeah. So if we have, I think we only have like 5 to 10 games where it was really snowing, but then we really try to get a lot of scenes from these 4 or 5 games in the data set so it can basically also um, track when there is snow. But it's then always a balance act where our team is, I think, doing a great job because if you overfit it, then again to the snowy conditions, it might worsen it for the other conditions. So that's always the balance act there.
Okay, yeah. And in terms of the games with the snow, you must be put in a lot of effort into analyzing each game afterwards in terms of mistakes, right?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, there our coaches are super helpful. So we are basically in the mode where we do partnerships with the clubs. So the coaches are always super excited that they can actually shape the future of Zone 14 and also I think a little bit of maybe future football. So we have like WhatsApp groups with all our coaches, and if they have feedback, if they see something that might not be perfect, or if they have something that they really like, they put it in the WhatsApp groups where we are present there. And so basically, they are our extended arm on the analysis department and giving us feedback on what they see, what they find helpful, what helps them in their daily work. And that's basically then also the source of our development strategy. So basically, if we see coaches like this and they ask for something, then we evaluate it and then we say, okay, this is gonna be the new features that we're gonna release.
Yeah, I wish I had this tool when I was playing as a kid. I mean, that would be awesome.
Yeah, I think it's one thing. Like even the videos. I mean, there is a lot of players, ex-players, and they are coaches now, and they tell us, yeah, they don't have even one video of them playing, because it hasn't been recorded yet. And I think that's yeah something that is a little bit sad because yeah, you might have scored 100 goals in your youth time, but you don't have one of on video.
Yeah, and afterwards, when you will be a grandpa, you could be just saying to your, grandson that I scored 100 or 200, and no one will check it, right?
Yeah, in this way, maybe you could even show some of your amazing goals.
Yeah, but Simon, that sounds awesome, and I really believe that Zone 14 is shaping the future of football. And given the ability, for, youth clubs, not only, Premier League clubs, I think what are you doing? Actually helping these small talents who, let's say, 30 years ago were not able, to make it to professionals. You're helping them right now, and that's awesome.
Yeah, thanks a lot. That's the idea is that you make unseen talent seen.
Yeah, yeah. And I wanted to go, actually, we had a bunch of questions, but we decided we asked the first one and we go without the plan. But we have couple minutes for a blitz at the end. And Simon, yeah, so first I wanted to ask you, is there is a way that football is not your favorite sport?
I think from passion side, football is definitely on the top. It is shared with judo, to be honest. I did that
Okay.
when I was young. So that's my more professional background in sports. So that is also high on the list there.
Okay, so football or judo is the first one.
Yes.
So which one?
Pwah, that's going to be a difficult one. I think I think we would have to settle for like a shared first place there because both of them have their taught me a lot in my life. Judo, especially when I was younger, and football now I'm still playing very passionately because I think it's yeah one of the nicest things you can do with your friends on a Sunday evening. Have a little bit of a amateur football game. Not always the nicest thing to see then on the camera, but it's quite fun.
Do you record yourself with your cameras?
Yeah, if I have to, but I
All
try to
right.
avoid it because the young guns in our team they are way better at football, and then
Okay.
if it's on our servers they can of course check out my mistakes and what I did, and then it's always a lot of laughter and banter at the lunch table, so I try to avoid that.
Okay, yeah, sounds awesome. What is the best career advice you have ever received during your career?
um I guess just go for it is a big one. Like don't be too anxious about things. When I mean I'm still a little bit like that to overthink things and very analytical thinking, but just take a leap of faith. I mean at a certain stage you cannot predict everything, and on the way you learn way more than you would ever think. So it was like definitely one of the best advices to just like yeah try jump in the cold water and try to swim and get things done. You're gonna learn tons on the way. Yeah,
Yeah, just do it, right?
yeah,
Okay, and in terms of sport metrics, what is the most important sport metric for you in football?
In football, I think the introduction of expected goals a few years back, that was definitely something on the broader circus that I really liked, because I think everybody that is longer in football knows there is a lot of things that makes it super excited, is that the better team doesn't necessarily win. You can be the worst team for 85 minutes and then you score two goals or one goal and you win the game.
Hmm.
Having a metric like expected goals showing a little bit what could have been is, I think, a super valuable thing.
Okay, yeah, like everyone I talk with, everyone is saying expected goals. So yeah, but by the way, do you guys provide expected goals?
I mean, we have been playing around with the value. I think depending on provider, they have different ways to calculate it. We have been playing around a little bit with it, but to be honest, we haven't focused too much on ball tracking. So um, therefore, our ball position tracking was not always the most accurate one. Therefore, it's a thing we have in the back of our minds, and we have it like tested a little bit, but it wasn't the focus yet.
Yeah, but I guess the most complex thing here is that, most of the models that are predicting expected goals, they are based out of the data for pro players and, for all of these pro teams. But when you have a use and when you have a kid changing their team each game, I mean, it's really hard to produce it.
Definitely, yeah, definitely. It's also, yeah, maybe something we can have a look at if you have a lot of youth games. I mean, you can also build a big database and maybe have like an expected goals for different age groups and stuff like that.
Yeah, that will be revolutionary.
Yeah.
Okay, who is your favorite player in football/soccer?
In football, I would say Toni Kroos, um, because yeah, I think for a long time he was super underrated, in my opinion. I mean, Bayern Munich let him go for, I think, way too cheap. And I super respect that he basically ended his career on top of things like winning Champions League, still getting like asked to come back for the Euros at home, and then really having the guts and the thing to say, okay, now I did everything and now I'm gonna focus on the next part of my career. It's really like something that I think was harder than it might seem from the outside.
Yes, for sure. When the athlete is ending their career and basically he's saying it himself before, he could actually play a little bit, right? More, but when he decided you need to be brave to do this.
Definitely.
Okay, and the last one in the Blitz is that what is the favorite part of what you do?
I mean, there is tons of things I enjoy, but basically, I mean, I spent my time talking about one of the most beautiful things there are, like football. So, I mean, I get paid to sit on podcasts with you, for example, talk about football, talk about sports. So I think that if I would ask the small kid Simon back in the days if he would be super happy with doing that.
Yeah, so talking about football, being in football, and also, growing your company, it is awesome.
Yeah, and we basically the feedback from the coaches is super valuable. And I mean, if you see that you really like bring them like something that is worth, they really can work better and they're super excited using your product. That is like, yeah, better than any payment or anything. Like if you really have like a positive impact on the ecosystem here.
Yeah, that must be really inspiring when you get a positive talks and feedback, right, from coaches.
Yeah, I think it's one of the best things. We usually have these product iterations in the evenings because most of our coaches are only doing this as a side job or not even a job, it's their hobby. So they are usually available somewhere from after 7 p.m., like maybe after training session even. So maybe you had a very long day and it was like there is always problems. I mean, that's my role at the company to solve problems, the bigger ones at least. And then in the evening, you're maybe completely exhausted. You already had like your 12, 13 hours, and then you have like a chat with a coach. And if they then give you positive feedback and they're like, yeah, the new feature is super helpful, it saves me that, and they're super happy about it, then you basically could just continue working for another 12 hours. It's that really gives you energy.
I hope you never did this.
I never did that.
Yeah. Okay. Any, thoughts that you also would like to share with our listeners, maybe some insights or anything?
No, I mean, in general, I think we covered a lot of things. I mean, if anybody is interested in Zone 14 and what we do, feel free to reach out to me. I mean, I'm on LinkedIn on the one hand side with Simon Schmiderer, and also reachable there. So if this is interesting or you have a company in the space and you think about maybe to partner up, we're always looking for partnerships, especially in other markets than the DACH region. So if there is somebody who is interested in a partnership, like just yeah, drop me a line, reach out, and we have a chat and see where it leads.
Yeah. Thank you, Simon, for being here. Thank you so much, for an introduction into the football analytics world, and this was awesome to hear. I am actually rooting for your company, and I believe that Zone 14 is impacting football future.
Yeah, thanks a lot, and thanks for having me.
Yeah.